Hey bag ladies and bag dudes, today I'm going to be talking about my scissor necklace, the first bag that I ever made, Tula Pink de la Luna Fabrics, my satellite bag. My book review will be for edge to edge quilting. I have a demonstration on how to fussy cut a flap for a bag, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everyone, thanks so much for spending your Sunday with me, or if it's later in the week and you're watching the recording, thanks so much for joining me. I see Michelle, Doreen on YouTube, Brenda, hi to everyone, and thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday. So just as a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Social Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And everything that I'm scheduled to talk about, I link to in the description. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the notions, fabrics, books, or projects that I talk about, just check that link in the description. And it came to my attention about 30 seconds ago. I glanced over and I saw my email that my links in the description are not actually hyperlinked. So the links are there. I apologize. I wasn't able to get onto my website in time and put those hyperlinks in, but as soon as the chat's over, I'll do that right away. So sorry about that. I don't know what I was thinking. I skipped that little step tonight. Okay, so in place of the notion of the week, I thought I would talk about my scissor necklace because I get a lot of questions about the necklace that I often wear during the chats. So I'm going to jump over to the side camera over here and show you the necklace. I'm not wearing it tonight, but I wanted to show you in the side view. So this is the necklace that I wear during my chats on occasion. I got this for my birthday from my best friend Kim, and a lot of people ask where I got it from. And so I have a link in the description to the necklace just like mine, as well as other styles of scissor necklaces. I just think it's really cool, and when I'm out and about, other people that sew, I think it kind of calls me out as a fellow sewist. So I really like wearing this necklace, and there's a better view of it. I do have an allergy to non-gold metals, and so I have to be sure to take off my necklace before I go to bed at night. I can't wear it all the time, but I sure do love wearing it, and like I said, it sort of identifies me to others in the sewing community. So tonight I thought I would pull out the first bag that I ever made and show it to you, and there's an interesting story about interfacing to go along with this bag. So if you've ever been to one of my in-person lectures, you know that I always pull this bag out when I'm talking about different bag interfacings. But this is the first bag that I ever made. I did save it. I made it using a Japanese import print. I'm not sure, I don't remember the name of the designer, but it's a canvas print. My favorite color is green, so that's why I chose this fabric. I don't remember the name of the pattern, but it's relatively easy sew. It had a flap, it had some gussets on the side, and it came together rather quickly, and I know I've made this at least 5 or 6 times back in the day. So this is probably from 2010 or 2011 that I made this bag. So pretty cute. Didn't come out too bad, but I want to show you a little close-up view in the side camera, and I hope this comes up on the camera. But if I hold the bag to the side, you can probably see that there's some ripples over here. Let me see if I can find a different area of the bag too. Oh, right here, definitely. You can see the ripples over here for sure, I'm sure. Okay, so let's cut back over to the front view. So the reason that this happened, so first of all, for my exterior fabric, I used Peltex interfacing. I used the one-sided fusible for this bag. When I'm demonstrating interfacings, I usually give my lecture attendees a charm pack of different interfacings that I use when making a bag. So 11 different interfacings, and I talk about sew-in Peltex and fusible Peltex. So this bag was made using the fusible Peltex. Even though, as you saw in the side camera, the bag has a bunch of ripples. The ripples started when I finished the bag, when it was still wrong side out, and I pulled it through the opening of the lining. And if you've made bags before, you know that it's kind of, and some people call it birthing a bag. So it's pulling the bag through the opening in the lining. Oftentimes you're pulling a lot of fabric and interfacing through that small hole. And so the bag is often kind of bunched up and crunched through that hole while you're trying to turn it right side out. And so The first part that went wrong was that the interfacing and the fabric was getting kind of crumpled together as I pulled it through the opening in the lining. So at the time, since I was newer to making bags and newer to interfacings, I thought an iron would solve the trick. So I ironed the bag dozens of times trying to get those wrinkles out, those little pucker dimples that you saw. I also attempted in other bags to wash the bag and then iron them, and those dimples stayed there no matter how many times that I ironed the bag. And so over time I've come to realize that certain interfacings, Peltex included, even though it looks nice when you first attach the fabric to the interfacing, as you're working with the bag, it gets handled a bit and certain areas of the interfacing become unattached from the fabric, and that's in this instance that was kind of a permanent thing. So when I'm explaining the different Peltex interfacings during my lecture, people often wonder, since I talk about the sew-in Peltex first, why would I use sew-in Peltex instead of the fusible kind? Because when I use Peltex, and if you've ever made my airplane bag, maybe you're familiar with this from my instructions in the airplane bag, but the bottom panel of the airplane bag, I use sew-in Peltex and Pellon Shape Flex. So I use two different interfacings against the wrong side of the fabric. So I cut the fabric to size, so that would be this blue fabric right here. I cut my Pellon Peltex sew-in 1/2 inch smaller on all sides to reduce bulk in the seam. And then I cut a piece of Shape Flex that's the same size as this panel right here. So I make a sandwich with the Peltex in the middle, so that it's the wrong side of the fabric, then the Peltex, which is centered, and then the Shape Flex. And I use the Shape Flex because it's fusible to fuse. Since it's cut the same size as the fabric, it fuses that Peltex in place along that 1/2 inch margin, because the 1/2 inch margin comes from the Peltex being cut smaller. And so that's how I use Peltex in bags. And so when I first explain that during my lectures, usually people are a little bit inquisitive why I would use sew-in Peltex as opposed to fusible Peltex. And then I pull out this bag and I show everybody, I walk it around so they can see it up close, and then I show everyone the dimples that are on the bag. And not that this is a bad interfacing, but you just need to keep in mind certain interfacings have different limitations, and if you know that, you can make good choices as far as what interfacings you'll use in your bags. Maybe you'll use the fusible Peltex for a smaller area of a bag or an area that you don't need to turn right side out through the opening in the lining. So I just wanted to share that with you because I feel like it's an interesting little tidbit that I do often share during my lectures, and I also wanted to show you the first bag that I ever made. So hopefully that was a little bit of food for thought in regard to interfacings. Okay, so I'm going to jump to Danny's favorite part of the chat, where we ask for all of the bag ladies and bag dudes to kind of raise their hands. So go ahead and type that in the comments if you're a bag lady or a bag dude. And we really love the community that it's created. I actually just got an email today from Kathleen, and she emailed me about, I believe it was last week where I read someone's letter regarding some hardships they were going through in their personal life, and I mentioned that I really appreciate the bag making community, and in particular when people are identifying as either bag ladies or bag dudes, and the support and the community, and just we identify with each other on not just on a sewing and creative level, but also on a personal level too. There's lots of things that we can find in common, and so we always like to use that call out during the shows just to kind of bring everyone together. And if you're not already a member of our Facebook group, I hope you'll join us there, because that's where we get the bag making, bag lady, and bag dude community. We continue that in the Facebook group. Okay, so new fabrics to show you in my stash this week. I know everybody's been waiting for us to get our Tula Pink fabrics in. Here's a bag that I made with Tula Pink de la Luna, and I used a couple different prints from the line. So I used this floral print, it's called Venus. The side panel was made using a sugar skull print. It's sort of a monochromatic print. And then my lining, I've got, this fabric is called ICU because of the eyeballs on there. So let me show you some of the other fabrics from the line in the side camera. And we do have it in stock on the website in various, I have bag packs, which are 2 yards that I've curated with exterior and lining fabric, and also 5-yard packs depending on colorway. So let me show you some of the prints in the overhead. This is the sugar skulls that I showed you on the satellite bag. This is my favorite colorway, by the way. It's called Spirit. This is the main print with the ladies. This print is called Possessed, so there's 3 different ladies on this print. And then let me show you the third one. It's kind of stuck in my fold over here. Here we go. That's the third lady right there. And this is a large scale print. I think it's about 12 inches tall, so great for a really large bag or a travel bag. Here's that print called Venus that I used in my satellite bag that I just showed you. I really love the moth over here, and obviously these are Venus flytraps. Here's a great monochromatic print called Baddie, and then here's that ICU print as well. So let me show you the other 2 colorways. This colorway is sort of a fuchsia color. It's called the colorway is called Clairvoyant, and there's some pops of green which are really interesting as well. And I love that even though these are not neon, they are so bright they feel almost like neon colors. And here's the second bright green in the fabric line. That's another Sugar Skulls. And I just love the artwork. It's like a very detailed damask, and Tula's known for her artwork on her fabrics. And then here's the last 2 in that colorway, Baddie and ICU. And then the last colorway is some really nice lavenders and purples. So I really love how the different fabrics play together, and Danny and I were talking about this fabric line earlier today, and he said this is probably his favorite fabric line out of all of the ones that Tula Pink's done. And here's that Possessed print. So really, really soft purples, really gorgeous colors, and between the colorways, the different fabrics work together as well. As you can see, there's some fuchsia in there and some lime green, and that kind of pulls the other line together with the greens that I showed you and the fuchsias. So all the fabrics really work together. So definitely my favorite fabric line that Tula's done so far. I'm always a sucker for the large scale prints, so of course this one's my favorite, and I think this one's my favorite of the 3 ladies as well. But I saw in the Facebook group a lot of people have been getting this fabric also, so I'm curious what your favorite prints that I showed you was. Let me know in the comments. So let me pull these out here again and refresh your memory, so that, you know, maybe you liked the monochromatic prints like the Baddie or Sugar Skulls. If you're like me, maybe your favorites was one of the larger prints like Venus or Possessed. This one's called Possessed. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments, and if you don't remember the names of the fabrics, that's okay. Just let me know if you like the one with the bats, the skulls, the ladies' faces. I'm really curious, so let me know down there in those comments. So on a personal note, my brother, his wife, and my niece are in town. They live in Colorado, and we usually see them about once a year, so I'm really excited to see them. We're going to be seeing them this Wednesday. My brother and my sister-in-law actually ran in a half marathon here in Chicago today. And my kids William and Violet are beyond excited to see them. They love my brother, so they can't wait for Wednesday. So it's hard sometimes not having our whole entire family living in the same area. I'm not sure if you have the same case with your family, but these days a lot of people, depending on jobs, going to school or whatnot, moving to different states, and like I said, we only see them once a year, so when we do see them, it's really exciting for us and the whole family. Okay, so I'd like to invite you now, if you enjoy our live shows, if you enjoy our tutorials and bag making videos, if you're watching on Facebook, to go ahead and hit the share button. Regardless if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you could at least help us out and hit the like button, which looks like a little thumbs up icon. Likes or shares, either one, really helps us out a lot, because Facebook and YouTube look at videos that have a lot of likes and shares, and they consider sharing those videos with people that might be interested in them but might not have seen them before. So that's how the likes and shares really help us out a lot, and we want to definitely bring more people into the bag making community, so thank you so much for doing that. All right, so my book review for this week is actually 2 books, and this was a recommendation by a viewer because they knew that we had recently gotten an embroidery machine, and I remarked on one of our previous shows that I actually didn't know that you could machine a quilt on an embroidery machine. So I'm going to slide over to the side camera and show you these 2 books that I bought. And these books are both from Emily Scott Designs, and both of them come with a CD in the back with all of the embroidery files on them. And so obviously these 2 books are for embroidery machines. The first of the 2 books is called Edge to Edge Quilting on Your Embroidery Machine. So this is just different instructions, for very detailed instructions, and this is great for me, especially being a beginner to my embroidery machine. Hooping my project, preparing the quilt, so not only a finished quilt, but if you would like to machine embroider your blocks as you assemble your quilt. So all the information's in there. I don't want to show you all the everything in too much detail, but here's the one of the embroidery files, baby bottles and little ducks, which would be great for a baby quilt. But that's just a taste of some of the files that are included with this book, and it helps you. So instead of sending the quilt out to be long-armed, you can actually finish the quilt on your embroidery machine and have really detailed designs to boot. So here's on the back cover, these are the embroidery files that are included in this particular book. I noticed there were several books in the series, I think maybe 9 or 10. If I'm not mistaken, and they all had different files in them. So my favorite from this particular book was the stars, because I find that that's something that I could use in an assortment of different quilts. The second book that I purchased was Build a Quilt on Your Embroidery Machine. So there's actual projects in this particular quilt. Not only quilts, pillows, there's a bag as well in the book. And let me show you also on the back cover of the projects in full. So all of these embroidery designs are included in the CD that's in the back of the quilt. And again, there's that bag that looks really great. And I think in addition to this wall hanging, it's a great opportunity to try machine quilting on a smaller basis before you move on to bigger quilts. And I just really like the projects and the inspiration in this. And honestly, I was astounded at the fact that you could machine a quilt on an embroidery machine. So it was really cool. I liked this particular project because it's assembling the different quilt blocks and embroidering them one by one before attaching them all together in the finished quilt. So I thought that was really cool as well, because you can get really detailed designs while not having a whole entire quilt through your machine. So a lot less bulk going through the machine. So these 2 books again were Build a Quilt on Your Embroidery Machine and Edge to Edge Quilting on Your Embroidery Machine by Emily Scott Designs. And I'm really excited to give both of those a try and sort of learn more about finishing my quilt on my embroidery machine. Really exciting. So thank you so much for that recommendation. As always, things that people and viewers email me as far as tutorial recommendations or tools or books that I should try. I always save those in a file, and I love investigating new things, so keep them coming. If you have an idea for me, let me know, and I'm happy to investigate it further. Okay, so I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. Do you have an embroidery machine? If you know the model of your embroidery machine, let me know that. Or if you maybe just know the brands, like maybe you have a Bernina embroidery machine or a Brother, let me know in the comments. So I'm really curious to know. The embroidery machine that we got about a month or 2 ago was a Brother 1600, and as far as I feel like it's sort of a kind of an entry level, maybe in the middle of an entry level and a more advanced machine, and we're pretty happy with it so far, but definitely looking forward to experimenting with it a little bit more over the rest of the summer. Okay, so my demonstration for today, is how to fussy cut a flap. So this is a flap that I have not fussy cut because it's kind of an all-over design, but what happens when you have a bag and a flap that you want to continue a design from the flap onto the body of the bag? So for example, perhaps your fabric has a horse on it. You want the head of the horse to be on your flap and the body of the horse to continue on to the body of the bag. How do you do that? So I have sort of a demonstration to show you that, and it's kind of reverse engineering. So let me show you in the side camera, and I prepared a couple of step outs just so I could explain this. And what I've prepared is a flap from one of my patterns. This is from the accordion bag pattern, and it's just a flap and a body of the bag. So again, if you're working with a bag, and let me cut over to the front view camera again just so I can show you another bag that I've pulled out. So if you're working with a bag with a flap that's flat that doesn't continue onto the back of the bag but rather just attaches onto the front of the bag, like my hyacinth bag, this one was really easy to fussy cut because I just cut sort of twins, like the flap and the body of the bag, using the same designs as the guideline. But what do you do if you have a flap that wraps around from the back of the bag, like my Oriole bag? So it's really hard in this case to decide where to continue on the design. And so with that extra explanation, I'll cut back over to the flap again. So I'm using one of the ladies from De La Luna, and I wanted to continue this design with the damask onto the body of the bag. So I went ahead and, per the pattern instructions, I assembled my flap by sewing the exterior fabric to the lining as called for in the instructions, and because my flap closes with a magnetic snap, I went ahead and attached that as well. So obviously you'll want to use the same interfacing as called for in the pattern. I skipped my interfacing for this demo just because I wanted to get right to the nitty-gritty, but this is the fully assembled flap with that magnetic snap already installed. Okay, so the body of my bag is actually a rectangle, but if your body of your bag is a pattern piece, you'll proceed in the same manner. So I went ahead and transferred my pattern piece, and this is for the main panel, so this is going to be the front of the bag. So I transferred this to a bit of material that I could see through. So this is actually Pellon True Grid, and it's a product made by Pellon, and each of these squares is 1 inch, so I find it really helpful. I like using this when I'm transferring pattern pieces or saving pattern pieces because it doesn't tear, but I can still write on it, write down the names of pattern pieces and so on. So I have a bolt of this at home, and I really like using this product. Anyway, I cut out my main panel pattern piece according to the pattern instructions on this bit of material, and I also read ahead in my pattern and I marked where the female half of the magnetic snap will be, just so I can reference that when I'm figuring out how to fussy cut the body of the bag to go along with my flap. Okay, so I'm going to put this True Grit to the side for just a second, and I'm going to pull out the rest of my fabric. So obviously I've cut out my flap and assembled it already. I'm going to find an area of the fabric that has that same design that my flap does. Okay, so that's the same lady, and I'm just going to pull that fabric up so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so I know this is really busy, but here's my flap right here. I'm going to sort of orient the flap so that it's on top of the fabric and the design is sort of continued. So I'm looking for especially this moth right here, so I can make sure that that design is continued, and I'm also checking the side of the fabric. Okay, so when you've got it in a good spot where you feel like the design is continuous, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull out that True Grid piece once again. So I'm going to gently leave my flap in the same position, but kind of fold it out of the way just so I can slide that True Grid piece inside. Okay, so again, I'm keeping in mind where that snap will be installed according to my little marking right there. And I'm going to pull my flap back down, and I'm going to try to connect that center of the magnetic snap with the center of that red marking. So I'm going to keep adjusting it till I find that it's directly on top of, the snap is directly on top of the marking. Okay, so that looks like a good spot. The reason that I wanted to use an item or sort of a fabric that I could see through is so while I'm moving my True Grid piece around, I can make sure my flap is still right on the design, so the design is continuous. Okay, so when I'm happy with everything and I make sure my True Grid piece is not crooked or wonky, I can go ahead and remove the flap, and I'm going to actually use this True Grid to draw or rotary cut out my pattern piece. So this is actually going to be the front of the bag. As you saw before, I marked where my magnetic snap was going to be. I made a little hole with my seam ripper, And I'm also going to transfer that placement for the magnetic snap on my fabric. So while I'm assembling my bag, obviously after I've cut out this piece, attached it to interfacing, while I'm assembling everything, I have that mark there so I can keep checking while I'm working to make sure that for sure is where I need to install that magnetic snap. So as the bag comes together, because you went through those steps to make sure everything was fussy cut properly, the front of your bag should be a continuation of the design on the flap as opposed to a totally different area of the fabric and not a continuation. So hopefully that made sense. I know it was a little bit of reverse engineering like I mentioned, but hopefully that's helpful to someone as far as fussy cutting. I've seen some great fussy cut bags in the Facebook group. One of the particular bags that comes to mind is an Oriole bag that Melissa made, and she had a beautiful peacock on her Oriole bag flap, and the design was continued onto the body of the bag perfectly. So good luck experimenting with your fussy cutting. Fussy cutting, one thing I will say about fussy cutting, it does take extra fabric. So if you're not sure about the fussy cutting, you might want to buy a little bit more than the pattern calls for, because especially with large scale designs like that De La Luna print, as you can see, because I had to move that flap around and get it in just the right spot, there was a little bit more of fabric waste with that particular fabric. So just keep that in mind when you're fussy cutting. Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you fussy cut things before? So maybe you fussy cut more of a simple design like that hyacinth bag that I showed you before. Perhaps you're fussy cutting for some hand sewing or for a quilt. So whatever you're fussy cutting for, if you've tried it before, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to know. Okay, so I'm going to answer some questions live in a second. So if you have any questions for me, either sewing related questions, bag making related questions, if you have a question about a tool, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll answer those live in just a second. Before we answer the questions and get to the giveaway, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway. Donna Meredith won and entered on YouTube, so congratulations to Donna. I've already contacted Donna on social media, and she's already emailed me her address for us to mail off her prize, so congratulations to you, Donna. Okay, so Danny's going to put a few questions up on the screen, and I apologize in advance if we don't get to all of the questions. If we miss your question, you can feel free to either email me or tune into our live show this Tuesday. Our live shows on Tuesday are called Ask Sarah, and the whole bulk of the show is answering questions live. So Cheryl says, okay, Sarah, here's a question. Do you think you could do a zipper video on the up and down on different ends? My mind is having a hard time wrapping around the zipper business. So I think you're probably talking about veering the zipper off the end of the fabric and veering, so veering down and veering up. I'm guessing that's what you're talking about. So I'll write myself a note that you'd like to see a tutorial for the veering. I've gotten a few questions about that in the past, so we'll try to work that in for a future tutorial video. Terry says, are we going to have any more cork projects? So we have one planned by the end of the month. I think I'm going to do a passport wallet because I've gotten a bunch of requests for that. So stay tuned. We'll announce that on the live show when we have that video up. And again, it'll be sometime before the end of July. Thoughtfully Sewn says, will you be offering an acrylic template for the wallet, specifically the credit card template? So that's really interesting. I do have 3 wallet patterns that we're going to be releasing in my next big set of patterns and videos. So I will definitely, I know we're going to be doing acrylic templates for those, but perhaps we can do sort of a generic credit card template. Let me see if I can get something figured out for that, and I'll write myself a note for that as well. Jeff says, what type or brand of thread do you use to sew 40 weight? So yes, I do use 40 weight. In a pinch, I will use 50 weight as well. I use Aurifil thread, which is 100% cotton, but you can certainly use a polyester thread like Gutermann, Coats and Clark. Those will be fine as well. This is what the 40 weight Aurifil thread looks like, and this is my 50 weight Aurifil thread, and the numbers work in reverse. So the smaller the number, the thicker the thread. So the 40 weight thread is thicker than my 50 weight thread. Carrie says, do you have to cut extra fabric to fussy cut a zipper panel? That's a great question. So for a zipper panel, usually that's a bit easier just because you're cutting a rectangle, and you're generally not having an overlap. So the reason that a flap like this calls for potentially extra fabric is because the flap starts on the back of the bag and then continues on the front. And the difficult part and why I use that true grid to show you that demonstration is for a flap, you don't know exactly, especially if it's your first time working on the pattern, you don't know exactly where that flap is going to close. Like, is it going to close up here, further down? And so that's why I sort of suggested almost reverse engineering, making the flap first and then waiting to cut out your body of your bag, or the front of the bag at least, until you've gotten that flap assembled, just so you can figure out where exactly that flap is going to close on the body of the bag. So that was the tricky part in regards to that demonstration. Michelle says, should I wash the De La Luna fabric before I sew with it? If so, what temperature? So the general recommendation in regards to pre-washing is that you should pre-treat the fabrics and interfacing the same way that you would the finished bag. So in theory, if you plan on washing the bag, say on cold and then putting it in the dryer, you should pre-treat your fabrics and interfacing in the same manner. Obviously, you don't want to put fusible in the dryer. However, if you're using a quality fabric from a quilt shop like the De La Luna fabric, I found from past experience that the shrinkage is super minimal, like a little bit larger than 1/8 of an inch for a whole yard of fabric. And so with that being said, I haven't pre-washed fabric for a bag in years, but you may want to err on the side of caution, especially if you're not sure where a particular fabric has come from, or if you're not familiar with how that fabric reacts. And especially fabrics that have red in them, like quilting cottons, those can bleed. So pre-washing will also help get rid of that particular problem as well. Amy says, are the giveaways open to Australian residents? Yeah, actually the giveaways are open worldwide, and we've actually had giveaway winners from the UK. I believe we've had a winner from Australia before, so it's open to everyone. And you'll see later on, all you need to do to enter the giveaway is just leave me a comment to a particular question, which I'll ask you in a few minutes. So yeah, we don't want to ever leave anyone out, so we always open all the giveaways worldwide. Amber says, I've tried to fussy cut, but doesn't always come off the greatest. You have some great tips. We'll definitely do that from now on. Thanks. Thank you for that compliment. I really appreciate it. I was trying to think before, because I know I've had questions on fussy cutting, what would be the best way to go about it. And while I was taking a shower earlier today, that Pellon True Grid kind of came to me kind of like a lightning bolt. When I've done the fussy cutting before, I've always kind of fidgeted with the fabric on the body of the bag, and then somehow that sort of see-through material popped in my head. So I'm not sure someone was sending me a sign or suggesting something that I do during Social Sunday, so thanks. Emily says, I want to experiment with cork fabric for straps and bag flaps. What color corks would you recommend for a beginner to play with that go with many fabrics? So I don't know if I have a piece sitting over here. My favorite cork and the best seller is the natural colors, like the neutrals. This particular one is natural with gold, so it has a gold fleck in the background. Just the regular natural is the best-selling color. I like the fawn, which is a natural, more flat-looking color. I feel like the neutrals are very forgiving because if you use sort of a cream-colored thread, the thread kind of blends in and you don't see it as well as some other thread colors or some other cork colors. So yeah, I definitely recommend giving the natural a try. It's our best seller, as well as, like I said, the stitches can theoretically hide a little bit more in the cork fabric. Have you gotten more acrylic templates in yet? I would like the corner cutter one. So unfortunately, we don't have the corner rounding template in stock yet. I think we're out of stock on 2 or 3. I know the Bellevue's out of stock. We did get 5 boxes of the templates in right before the weekend, but those weren't in the package. And Ed and Robin, who make our templates, are in the process of moving right now. They're moving to Arizona, and so I know Ed said he'd get us a few more templates before they officially pack up for their move, and he said his laser, which makes the templates, is going to be the last thing to be packed. So we'll let you know as soon as that corner rounder and the Bellevue come back in stock. And we are out of the full set of templates just because we're missing the Bellevue, so sorry about that. But we do have, I think, almost all the rest of them in stock, as well as the seam guides. Sue said, have you done a video on doing a strap with one side cork and vinyl and the back side fabric? If not, can you do a demo video? So we did, when was that? I think it was a couple weeks ago. We did a cork strap with a fabric. It was on our July 8th video. So if you want to check that out on YouTube, July 8th, near the end of the Social Sunday video, the demonstration for the double-sided strap is there. We're working to get, I feel so embarrassed, like sometimes I feel bad about giving excuses for things, but our original goal, and Danny does edit out each of our demonstrations, like that fussy cutting demonstration that I just gave. He does edit all of those out, and he leaves those for me in draft on Facebook and YouTube. The problem is I haven't had time to make graphics for each of those videos and put them up on the blog, so I think I just need to hire someone specifically to make the graphics for those videos so we can have separate videos. So I was thinking about that earlier today, and I think that's the solution. I just need to hire someone part-time just to do those graphics, and maybe they'll get done, because I can't trust myself to finish them, because I always tell myself, all right, tomorrow I'm just going to sit down all day and just make the graphics for all the videos that we've done over these past months, but I just never seem to get around to it. So I guess I need a little bit of extra help in that department. Kim says, will you be doing a video in pattern for a large duffel bag? You have one in your book, but they are not in print now, apparently. Yeah, unfortunately, my first book, Big City Bags, is out of print. Windy City Bags, which I believe had the duffel in it, is still in print. I do have one duffel bag with a video already called the Emblem Duffel Bag, and you can find that on my website if you're interested in seeing what that looks like. If you go to sewsweetness.com and click on the graphic in the middle of the screen that says online workshops, you can see all of the patterns that already have videos, and the Emblem Duffel Bag will be right there. Judy says, my dealer is now carrying Juki machines. I know you have mentioned your models before, but I can't remember them. Also, what feet came with them? So I've had my Juki TL 2010Q since 2013. And I think, is it almost 2 years now? I've had the Juki QVP 2200 Mini, and the two machines are almost exactly the same. The major difference is the TL 2010 can be sold online, and the 2200, you can only find those in a brick and mortar shop. Also, the 2200 comes with more feet. I don't remember which feet each one came with, but I believe the TL 2010 did not come with the walking foot. I know they both came with a zipper foot, but the 2200 does come with the walking foot, zipper foot. I think there's two or three other feet that came with the 2200. So if you like a lot of different feet, the 2200 might be the one that you want to look at, especially if you have a local quilt shop near you. Some other feet that I could highly recommend are a Teflon foot, which I had to buy extra for either machine, and a hinge zipper foot, which made my zipper sewing a whole lot easier than the regular foot that came with my machine. Diane says, anyone out there wash a completed bag? One of my bags got a little dirty and I would like to wash it. I have before. I admit in recent years, since I have so many bags because I design bag patterns for a living, I don't find the need to wash them all that often. But I have in years past washed bags, put them in the dryer. They seem to do just fine. I found that especially bags with less structure, like maybe bags with batting or fusible fleece, those were the easiest to wash and dry and get looking like new. You can also, I know the bag's already made, but Scotchgard Spray is also an option for when you just finish your bags. This Scotchgard Spray kind of is almost a stain repellent, and it helps bags looking new longer. So that's another option as well. Debbie says, can you turn the Soul Sweetness lamp on? I know Danny put that comment up on the screen because he turned the lamp on before the show, and I said, I don't know, it was just too bright right behind my head, but I guess I'll do it. How do you turn this on, Danny?
It's got a center button. Just press the top of center.
Okay.
You press it to change colors. Oh. You can put it on the desk next to you too.
Okay.
It's battery.
Okay, I'll just put it on the desk so you can see it. There we go. So Ed made this. Ed makes our acrylic templates, and he made an acrylic template to go in this holder, and you can see the light on the inside. When you put the template in there, it lights the whole template up, so, and it changes color too. Put that on the desk. Cynthia said, I've tried looking for the fabrics and templates to purchase. I'm not very savvy in how to look for them. Help. So I'm happy to help. Again, sewsweetness.com, and this will look different depending on if you're on a laptop or a desktop computer versus a tablet or a cell phone. So if you're on a desktop or a laptop computer, along the top of the screen will be a bunch of tabs, shop, tutorials, blog. So that's kind of what you'll see along the top of the screen. You want to hover your mouse over shop, and then a bunch of listings will come up. And if you're looking for the Tula Pink fabric, you'll want to just click on Tula Pink fabric. If you're looking for the templates, when you hover on shop, it'll there will be a listing for acrylic templates as well, and you can click on either of those. If you're on a cell phone or a tablet, instead of being on the top of the screen, it'll be on the side. It'll look a bit different, but there's still a shop button, and when you click on, I think it's a little plus, when you click on the plus, it sort of opens up with all of the different options. So those are two ways where you can find either the fabrics or the templates. If you still have trouble, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to send you a direct link. And my email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's Sarah with no H. Oh, there's Bronwyn. Bronwyn says, maybe you could just sleep half an hour a night, and then you could do more work. Ooh, I would be super cranky if I only got a half hour or an hour or two. Since my kids are not babies anymore, I'm used to getting about 8 or 9 hours of sleep a night if I don't wake up in the middle of the night. I can get 8 hours, which is really nice, and I feel like I need a good night's rest because we're always working on things, videos or cutting fabric or designing patterns. Me at least. Danny's not designing patterns, but there's always plenty of stuff to do around here in the Lawson household. Linda says, will you be offering the Cork Club again? We're hoping to offer it again at the beginning of the year. We just need to take a little break. We just shipped out a lot of the last month 6 packets, and it's quite an undertaking as far as cutting the fabric, assembling the packets, so we just need a little bit of break. I'm trying to get my new set of patterns done, and then we'll hopefully be able to announce Cork Club again at the beginning of the year. Lauren says, when did you start designing for a living? That's a great question. So I started my blog and I started sewing as an adult in September of 2010. My very first pattern went on sale January of 2013. So I had about 2 or 3 years to kind of do my learning, make a bunch of projects, make a bunch of mistakes. Yeah, but the very first pattern was January 2013. That was a ... bag. And it was just so exciting to put things out there into the world and see people make them. And it still gives me a thrill. You know, it's one thing to write a pattern, but another thing to see someone make it successfully and see them put their own spin on it. So that's the exciting part for me, definitely. Naomi says, Sarah, can you please tell me the name of the material you used for the airplane bag you showed earlier in the show? Definitely. Let me move this lamp out of the way so I don't knock it down.
Hold on, Sarah. Read the comments.
Oh, Catherine says, love the lamp. Thank you very much. Danny likes to see those comments. Michelle, absolutely love that lamp. Will you be selling those? We're actually going to be giving these out as trophies for people, either people who have done an awesome job making bags, been super supportive in the Facebook group, because of course we want to promote the bag making community and the helpfulness. So we're hoping to have these personalized with when we give them out with the person's name, and thought it would be cool to also say bag lady or bag dude on there. So when Ed and Robin finish their move, we're hoping to get some of those trophies made and sent out. So this is the airplane bag. I'll have Danny just move that question away from the screen for just a second. The fabric, so this is quilting cotton. This was designed by Tokyo Milk for Free Spirit Fabrics, and I super love the large scale print. I used jeans blue cork fabric for the straps in the bottom of the bag, and there's a handbag zipper on the top, and I'll show you the lining fabric too. The lining fabric is also from Tokyo Milk, and it's got a bunch of goldfish, which is really cool. So I love this bag. Amanda says, can I just say I appreciate you. I emailed you this morning and you got right back to me. My husband recently deployed, and sewing is what I chose to learn while he was gone. Thanks for being something to look forward to and keep me busy. So I'm so glad that sewing is something for you to hang on to. I know for me, certainly, it's something that really enriches my life, and definitely everyone in the Facebook group keeps me company, and we super love doing the live chat. So I'm so glad you're enjoying our videos, because we love doing them week after week for sure. Thoughtfully Sewn says, did you know this is what you were going to do? So I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before. Danny, stop me if I'm being redundant, but I went to college for advertising and art. So basically I just did a bunch of artwork. I'm not sure, in hindsight, I probably would have done better if I had a better plan in mind besides just making artwork and studying art. But I worked in pet stores for 14 years, so that was during college and after college. After college, I couldn't find a job in my field, surprise, surprise, since I was just studying art. However, after I had my daughter, she was our second child, I developed an allergy to anything with fur, so working in a pet store was kind of difficult. After my allergy developed, I was taking care of the fish tanks, the reptiles. I was handling crickets, feeding snakes, feeding tarantulas. So thank God sewing came along, so I don't have to do that stuff anymore. I had no idea sewing was going to turn into anything. It all started off as just a blog, which was just my website at the time, and I just take pictures of everything that I sewed. I wrote a little blog post about it, and I put it online, and that was pretty much all that I had in mind as far as that goes. I never thought I would write a book or travel to teach or design fabric or write patterns or any of this stuff. So I'm super grateful, and sometimes I still have to pinch myself because I almost can't believe it, and I'm really lucky that our family gets to be together every day, since Danny works with me now as well full-time. So yeah, I'm super, super thankful, very thankful. Miss Marine says, is your logo embroidery on your site somewhere? Oh, I know Melissa sent me, I'm gonna write myself a note, because I think it was Melissa that sent me a tagged comment on Facebook about my logo. So someone very kindly embroidered the So Sweetness logo for me, and she created a digital file, so I'll post that on Facebook. I'm highlighting my note in my notebook. Sorry about that. Sorry about the delay. April says, it would be sort of fun to have the trophies for a People's Choice Award. Maybe monthly or quarterly, Sarah, Danny, and kids each choose their favorite picture for the month, and then the community votes on their favorite. That's a great idea. I love the community involvement, especially, and the voting. Great idea. You like that idea, Danny? He's nodding. He's nodding his head. All right. Wanda says, do you all have a t-shirt with your logo for sale with Bag Lady, Bag Dude on the back? So I was actually thinking about that this weekend. It would be really cool. Despite studying art in school, I'm not much of a hand-drawn artist. It would be really cool to have a really great artist design some sort of bag or graphic, and we could have Bag Lady or Bag Dude on that. Yeah, having shirts would be really fun, and I'd love to do that. So if anyone has a suggestion or idea, feel free to email me, and we'll try to get that put together, because that would be really cool. The trophies, as far as the t-shirts, that would be really awesome. All right, Danny's calling it. So let's get over to the giveaway before I forget. I'm going to show you in the side camera, because these are really cool up close. So we just got some new, 3 new faux leathers in the shop. I tried to pick neutrals and popular colors based on different colors of faux leathers that we've sewn in the past. So we have them in the 3 colors of black, silver, and rose gold. They're really thin. If you've ever used either our glitter vinyls or other faux leathers before, it's about that thickness. The back is sort of a micro mixture flat fabric, so it's definitely not fleecy. It's not mesh either, so it's a really nice backing, nice and flexible, like I said, thin and easy to sew with. You'll want to use either your Teflon foot or your walking foot for these. And here's the silver. Again, the backings sort of coordinate with the main color on the front of the fabric. And the reason I chose these is I really liked the texture, so I kind of consider this similar to a top grain leather, even though this is not real leather, it's faux leather. I really like the texture of this design especially. And here's the rose gold too. So there's the rose gold and the silver together with the black. So the giveaway for this week is for a 1/2 yard piece of each of these fabrics. So the 1/2 yard is 18 inches by 54 inches, so plenty of fabric to make the body of the bag or to use it for straps or accents. And if you saw I believe it was Social Sunday last week, I brought out 4 or 5 bags, and basically all these bags that I brought out used a 1/2 yard of corker vinyl. So like this Oriole bag was made with a 1/2 yard piece, which is the size of what these pieces are. Same thing with that airplane bag that I showed you earlier. To be entered to win this giveaway, all you have to do is answer my giveaway question, and I'll take entries through this Saturday, which is July 28th, end of day. The giveaway question is, this is sort of a funny one. Do you sew barefoot, with socks, with shoes? Danny suggested also maybe with slippers. So before I started teaching workshops, it didn't occur to me that different people sew in different ways. So when I teach workshops, sometimes I actually see people take their socks and shoes off and sew barefoot, because that's how they sew at home, and that they'd like to be comfortable during the workshop and sew that way as well. So let me know, do you sew barefoot, with socks, or with shoes? So if I'm wearing socks, I'll obviously just be sewing with socks on in the summer. Not every day is a day that I'm wearing socks, so I guess those days I would be sewing barefoot. Basically whatever I'm wearing, if I have shoes on, I'll sew with shoes. I've also noticed that some people like to sew standing up, so if that's something you like as well, just let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to see how people are sewing, how they're getting comfortable with their sewing machine. All right, so thank you so much for watching Sewcial Sunday. I really enjoyed being here with you tonight. I'll see you again next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everyone.